So, on the practical side, Louise, welcome to this Spark. I know that you know the CIBP environment already. Marcelo from the Brazilian Bank's Central Bank is already with us. As I said to everyone, we have registered more than 50 attendees today. However, I see that the half has joined. I would suggest that we start, as it's a precious moment for all. We will start with Marcelo, and then you can take over and introduce yourself. I will now leave the word to Juliana, who is also from CICOB. You may already know her. She is a dear colleague of the CICOB system and also a dear colleague for us at CIBP. So again, Juliana, thank you very much for making this encounter feasible. It's of high interest on financial health, financial sustainability, and financial education, which is one of the core values of the cooperative system. Thank you, Juliana.
Thank you, Valeria, and thank you everyone for being here today. Um, this is a topic that many people had requested for us before, so we're very happy we're able to do it. As you may have seen in our Save the Date, we have two parts today for our Spark. So our first part, sorry, we have a very special guest, which is Marcelo Angulo, head of the division of the Department for Financial Citizenship Promotion from the Central Bank of Brazil. Um, I'm not going to speak too much. I'll let you introduce yourself, Marcelo. But he will be discussing the Central Bank of Brazil's approach to engaging in financial service providers in promoting financial education. And for our second part of today's Spark, we have Louize Oliveira, which is a financial citizenship supervisor, and she's from our CICOB Institute, and she will be talking a little bit about CICOB's financial capacity agenda. So the floor is with you, Marcelo. Um, let's,
Oh,
it's with you. Thank you
okay,
very much, guys.
thank you, Juliana. Let me share my presentation. So thank you very much for inviting us to share the Central Bank of Brazil agenda on financial education. My name is Marcelo, and I work for the Department for Financial Citizenship Promotion, which is responsible for financial education here at the Central Bank of Brazil. The main topic of my presentation is the Central Bank of Brazil's approach to encouraging financial service providers to provide financial education. Since we have participants here from different countries, let me give you a brief overview about the Central Bank of Brazil as I start. The central bank is responsible for regulating and supervising credit and payment services in Brazil. This includes banks, finance companies, credit card companies, payment institutions, and of course, credit unions. That's why we have been invited by CICOB to be here. Even though financial education is not regulated in Brazil, that's an important point, the central bank considers financial education a strategic pillar that complements its activities, such as regulation, supervision, and monetary policy. And that's why we have an agenda for financial education. As you can see here, we have the BC hashtag. That's how we call our strategic agenda. And we have a pillar on financial education. And I'd like to highlight two projects from the financial education pillar. The first one is financial education at public schools, the Aprender Valor project, which reassures the importance of teaching financial education for children. That's a very important project for us. And the second project I'd like to highlight is the one my team is responsible, financial education with the financial system, which involves encouraging financial education initiatives in two ways. The first one is in partnership with associations. And for example, we have a cooperation agreement to promote financial education with the Brazilian Federation of Banks. The second way is encouraging financial education interventions by financial service providers, such as banks and credit unions. And this will be the focus of my presentation. So to start, what do we mean by encouraging financial service providers to engage in financial education? That's a big question for us. What do we demand, actually, that institutions should do? So providers should design financial education initiatives following 4 principles. The first principle is value to consumers. What do we mean by that? We mean value to consumers by providing information and initiatives that are relevant and useful to their financial lives. The second principle is broad scope, to ensure access by all consumers. The third one is customization, a very important one for us. And by customization, we mean using appropriate content, language, timing, and channels, and considering each consumer's need. The fourth one is evaluation and improvement, which is measuring how each financial capability initiative compares to its goals, aiming at continuous improving. So that's the first question. What do we demand by financial institutions? The second one is why. Why is the central bank encouraging providers to engage in financial education? And let me tell you that financial providers are at a unique position to offer financial education for 3 reasons: clients, data, and teachable moments. So the first one is clients. Providers can reach out easily their customers, meaning millions of people. And we would like that financial education reaches millions of people. The second reason is data. For example, providers have access to clients' history of transactions, and they can build models to understand at which moment of life a client is, his or her financial need, and his or her financial education need. The third one is a very important one for us. It's called teachable moments. And providers interact with clients during key moments at their financial lives, like getting a loan for an important acquisition or planning for retirement. And that's what we call a teachable moment. So studies have reported that financial education initiatives targeting teachable moments are more efficient. This is key for us. So the 3 reasons are clients, data, and teachable moments. Also, we see that financial education at financial service providers should go beyond social responsibility initiatives. That's also a key point for us. Financial education can actually enhance the relationship between providers and consumers. It can help clients improve their financial health and also improve results, including financial and non-financial results. Finally, how is the central bank encouraging financial service providers? In 2019, the central bank published a communiqué, a non-binding guidance, which established principles for providers. And also since 2020, we've been conducting financial education assessments to understand providers' initiatives. We started with banks and payment institutions, and last year we added credit unions to the process. And in this presentation, I will focus on the later assessment with credit unions. But before bringing some results from our assessment, let me give you an overview of credit unions in Brazil. Credit unions manage about $7 billion in Brazil. If credit unions were a bank in Brazil, they would be the 6th largest bank. They are organized into 7 credit union systems with 2 or 3 levels, but there is still a minor part of them. There are single credit unions not linked to any of the 7 systems. I don't know how credit unions are organized in your countries, but here in Brazil, we have three levels. The first level is the single credit union. And some single credit unions can group themselves, can associate into a central credit union. The central credit union would be responsible for back office services like risk management and IT, and the central credit union would be the second level. Also, a group of central credit unions can associate themselves to a confederation of credit unions, and that would be the third level. That's why we say that here in Brazil we have three levels. So going on here, the annual growth of credit unions is around 35% per year, higher than the average of the financial system. And very important, credit unions provide service to about 12 million associates that are spread in about 2,700 municipalities, out of which the credit unions are the solely financial service provider in 231. So you can see how credit unions are relevant here in Brazil. About the assessment, it was a questionnaire divided in two parts. The first one on financial education governance and structure, the second on financial education initiatives. For this assessment, we have chosen to work only with credit unions linked to 2 or 3 level systems. So we have contacted 619 credit unions, with all of them replying to our questions. We identified that 535, which means 86% of them engaged in some financial education initiative. After crunching the data, we could identify three main findings. The first one is that 13.6% of credit unions do not engage in financial education initiatives. This was a surprise for us, actually, especially considering that education and improving the community is part of a credit union mission here in Brazil, accordingly to the fifth and seventh cooperative principles. The second finding is multiplicity. We could note that the credit unions have a very diverse number of directives, objectives, and they look for orientation in a diverse group of sources. This happened even with credit unions part of the same credit union system. Due to this multiplicity in sources and directives, we could identify low adherence to systemic standards and programs, meaning that even credit unions that are members of the same systems would provide different materials and content on financial education. So, based on the main findings, we have set some priorities. The first one is engaging 100% of credit unions in financial education activities, since it's part of their mission. The second one is enhancing systemic financial education governance. We want the highest level in each credit union system to lead and monitor financial education initiatives. This includes standard policies and common content to reduce costs. This should be done with, of course, without disregard to each credit union singularity. It's important that systemic levels policy allow minor adjustments to local communities. Finally, it's important to set a formal articulation among credit union systems and between them and the central bank. So we are creating a working group to accomplish that goal. Well, that was a very brief overview on the work of central bank, like a 15 minutes overview. If you have any questions, this is my mail. And I guess now Louise from CICOB will present how CICOB is responding to the central bank demands on financial education. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marcelo. Could I share my screen just a minute? Thank you a lot, Marcelo. Now I'm going to present how we built our financial education agenda. Everything started with the central bank survey. Here are some results for CICOB, of course. 17% of CICOB cooperatives don't implement financial education initiatives in their business. 48% of CICOB cooperatives don't usually develop financial education initiatives. 44% of CICOB cooperatives don't mention financial education in their strategic plan. And 52% of CICOB cooperatives don't mention financial education in their business documentation. So the CICOB financial education agenda has been developed in consonance with the sustainability agenda of CICOB and our strategic plan too. Initially, we consulted some articles about how financial education could improve our business and our community. Following are some conclusions. According to article published by moneyandpensionservice.org.uk, financial capability or financial education is the ability to manage money well, and the key driver of a person's financial health and well-being. This diagram shows the combination of interviewers' perspective of what financial capabilities means. I want to highlight 4 topics. First one, supporting better financial decisions through information and tools. Second, reducing negative impacts of financial vulnerability. Third, financial inclusion through appropriate financial products and services. And 4, building financial resilience. Okay, this is our financial education agenda map, strategic map. In this case, in this page, you can see all the strategic map of financial education agenda, of our financial education agenda. As a cooperative, we believe in some principles, especially in education, training, and information, and democratic member control. This is important to our business, especially when we know that this business is controlled by members. Therefore, investing in financial education of the members is important for business continuity. It's necessary for business continuity. For this reason, in the top of this map, we have the purpose, the vision, and the mission of CICOB, because all of this is about our business. Education is about our business too. Below, there are some OKRs of CICOB strategic plan, such as increase the social impact, increase the engagement of CICOB cooperatives, increase CICOB market share in specific profile population, and increase the annual value that's saved for each member at CICOB cooperative. Therefore, there are the goals of the CICOB financial education agenda in consonance with the CICOB strategic plan and the central bank survey. To achieve these goals, we need to talk with non-members and members. For this reason, we created a working group to develop a customer attraction and loyalty strategy. Here, the group. This is our working group. We are having the first meeting of this working group today, right now. As we can see in this picture, this is us. And in addition, one more important thing to share here is about the governance of this working group. Because we know how important it is for everyone to participate during the process, especially to promote the consonance between the CICOB financial education agenda, the sustainability agenda, and CICOB financial plan. Maybe this is our main advice. To build an important agenda, it's necessary to involve everyone in the organization. We believe in this agenda for the community, for our members, and for our business. So we have working hard to make it a reality. And this is our structure. This is our working group, how we are working for that. I would like to thank you all for the attention and especially thank my managers for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Louise, and thank you very much, Marcelo, for the presentations that you gave. Very interesting to see how from a theory and of course, and a process to involve everyone, and that is a key word that you said, Louise, to have a concrete example of CICOB as a cooperative financial institution. Questions are very much welcome during this part. You can write your questions on the chat or just go ahead and ask your questions for Louise or Marcelo. I have also questions because I would be very curious to hear. Brigitte has a question. I will just ask my question, and it's a question for the audience actually. This is a very structured and strategic plan, very detailed, with a clear objective set by you, Marcelo, and how it's important for the CICOB. I will be curious to hear among our members, among our participants here today, is this also reality within your organization? Are you also working so thoroughly on making the access of financial tools to your population, to your members, to the young around us, etc. I think it's interesting to hear from the Brazilian model how also the cooperation works within a central organ, within the central regulator, if I may say so, Marcelo, and a cooperative bank. So the question goes for all of you who are with us today, coming from Germany, France, Argentina. It would be curious to hear if you already have established such relationships. And if you are...
Unfortunately, I don't really know the answers. This is why I was not speaking, but I think the presentation was very interesting for us because as we work about membership, we think financial education should be a service we offer to our member more than just financial products. But we are like thinking a lot about it, and I think maybe the link you have between the central bank and CICOB is very interesting, and we don't have such powerful link with the European Central Bank, and not about this kind of subject. It's more about regulation than about some social and very important subjects.
Thank you very much, Celine. So for everyone, Celine is coming from France and works at the National Federation of Popular Banks in France. So thank you very much for your comments and also sharing with us the realities indeed in Europe. And again, don't hesitate to contact Louise and Marcelo for the best practice. I think that Brigitte, Brigitte, you had a question maybe for our speakers?
Yes, thank you, Valeria. Marcelo, this was a question regarding your presentation. In one of your first slides, you mentioned that 13.6% of credit unions do not engage in financial education activities. And you mentioned that this was a surprise for you. What did you expect or why? I just would like to know the reasons and your expectations of this.
Sure. The number was actually, let me check here, about 86% of credit unions engaged into financial education initiatives, and our goal is that 100% would engage. And actually, that is because it's in the credit union mission here in Brazil to offer education to the community. So We would expect about 100%, because it's in their mission. But I guess Stan, that works with me, would like to complement.
Yeah, if I can add something to that, because we had a previous assessment on banks and payment institutions. So in 2020, we could see that 65% of banks and payment institutions were engaging in financial education. And if we think that these institutions, they don't have this mission and this commitment to their communities and with education as well, and they are profit driven, we would expect cooperatives and credit unions to go well beyond the 65%. So we were expecting 100%. And that's why it was a surprise for us when we could not see that. And of course, we know that many of the credit unions, they have a very much like business approach, but we know that it's important for the credit unions the non-financial results as well. So it's important for them to prove that when a citizen engage with the credit union, they go well beyond the financial products. They can reach improvement in their financial health because the credit union cares about the community and about their associates. And when we see that only 85%, 86% engage in financial education and 14% of them don't care about, we see that we still have a long way to to go to reach this goal of really improving financial health of people. And also this is valid also for the credit unions.
Just to add that's a very interesting question, Brigitte, because at first when we look at the number, 86 seems to be a lot, but as Stan said, when we make a second thought on that, we realize there is a lot of room for improvement.
I don't know if we have time, but I just want to add one more I don't know, one more statement, not about the 14%, but I think it's really important for us to think about the benefit of integrating financial education into the business of credit unions or any other financial service provider. I think that one of the key questions here is actually that you can improve the results of for consumers and also for the financial consumers and also the financial institutions. And I think that one important thing here is that we have to measure the results. We can see that many of the financial service providers, they have campaigns and they have content and they have blogs, they have social media and spreading the financial it's the importance of having your own personal budget and controlling your finances. But it's really hard to see anyone who's measuring if these interactions with clients and consumers are actually uh, providing the expected results for both clients and financial institutions. We could see it only in one credit union system here in Brazil that they could actually measure the benefits for the credit union when they started to have complete financial education programs. They could see that their associates were using more the credit union instead of regular banks because they could get this information and they could actually see value in the credit union other than the regular banks. So we want to see more of these studies, because I think it's important for you to pick these people that are receiving financial education interventions and see how their behavior is changing. And I think this is one of the key aspects that we have, and we don't see that much in international literature as well. So this is something important, and only the credit unions and the service providers can do, because most of the times they don't want to share this information, of course, because it's very strategic, and it's the core of their business. But at the central bank we can see that. So you can share with us, because we are not going to spread it out, but it's really important for us to see if it's working or not, because if it's not working at all, we can all drop the financial education, and we are not going to talk about it anymore. But it's important to see if it's working.
If I can talk a little bit about the topic, I think it's very important because I don't know in other countries, but here in Brazil, I grow never learning, neither in school or in college, about financial education. And even today, I get to see some absurd things in the social media, like you don't have money, get a credit card to buy some stuff. And then I get, but you have to pay that anyway later. So I think we have a long, long way to go on that financial education aspect, because I get to see some very, very absurd stuff, like people showing magical ways to get rich, and that's still up on social media. I don't know how's that in other countries, but even in that aspect, I think we need more regulation. I think central bank or some institutions should look to that, like report some contents that are not okay to. So if some people don't have education yet, if they see that, they are going to fall on that, uh, sorry for the term, bullshit, because it's absurd. I watch a lot of stuff every day, and they are still on social media, so I think it's important to look at that too.
And just to comment on what Leandro said, I mean, I saw you had mentioned it was adding the financial education in public schools and in schools, I guess in all schools. How important that is, because as he said, when we're growing up, we never learned about it. And I believe that's much not making other subjects less important, but I mean, you don't need to know everything about physics, but financial education is something we use every day. It's something we really need to use, right? So just think it's a very important job you guys are doing, and I really hope that all cooperatives can work this way as well, and the other central banks can also implement this agenda, because I think financial education is just one of the main things we need to learn, and as children, adolescents, and even adults. I mean, some of us are clueless, right? So, a very good job.
I can barely remember that those huge chemistry formulas, and I use financial every day. So I think
Exactly.
we have a long way to go on that education aspect in schools and even college. Uh, so that's very right. And I think that in the topic of this meeting, like as credit unions, I think we have a lot to contribute and to be in the and the first ones to start the movement to change that.
In addition, in Brazil, we have some data about that. Marcelo and Stan could share too, but more than 50% of Brazilians' families are in diabetes, something like that. And it's important to learn about financial education, uh, not just to know about that, but especially to. Could you hear me? I'm here. Yeah. Oh, sorry. But especially to how you can handle with your money, how you can buy things, and this is important to change behavior and to improve it, not just as a person but as our business too.
Thank you. Thank you very much, all of you, for this exchange. Very true, very honest, very preoccupying, very hopeful, very necessary. There is this conscious and also the thorough work that you are doing, right? On a very, again, systematic and analytic way. And as with the question of Brigitte, it raises some questions that there is still some work to do for something that seems obvious working for cooperative banks and cooperatives in general. So very inspiring. Thank you for waking up us again, that we take conscious of our responsibilities. Again, as a person and for our close one and within the organizations we work for. A big thank you, Louise, for offering your time and making sure that to present us a very clear presentation. Thank you for being within the CIBP community. And Marcelo, thank you also too for having accepted the invitation, because with your presentation and your role as an exterior, I would say, of the cooperative movement, that maybe sometimes they feel alone, maybe in Europe, that there is some support and common thinking. There's the saying, together we reach more. So thank you also for believing in that and to making a thorough work on that. Stanislas, we have not been presented to the group, and your exchange and added value was very interesting also, and you raised very thoroughly the conscience of all of us and what needs to be done still. So thank you very much. To all, again, as you know, you may reach out to our today's speakers via email. We'll be sending the presentation to you, and we look forward to meeting you again next month. It will be the last part of the first semester on 2022, and it will be hosted by our Chilean member, Copeuchi. Thank you very much. Have a good rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye bye. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Have a
Bye
great
bye.
day.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.